Hey Shackers, we are at the Oculus booth at GDC 2018.
Right.
Can you say your name and your position at Owlchemy for us?
Sure. I'm Alex Schwartz, and I'm the CE Owl and janitor of Owlchemy Labs.
So is this a promotion where you got moved up to CEL recently?
Oh man, I've always been CEL at heart, but janitor is really the promotion for me. That's like the top level.
That's funny, I'm the janitor of Shacknews too.
That's perfect. I think we'll get along.
So you're showing off Vacation Simulator. You guys have you have quite a bit of VR experience, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not our first VR game, and with Job Simulator and then Rick and Morty VR, like coming off of Job Simulator, the joke was too good to not say like, well, first you job, then you're gonna vacation clearly. So here we are.
And I just did the demo. I got to sports. I love how you have literally turned the noun sports into a verb in this game, right?
Yes, you do sport in Vacation Simulator. That's one of the many things.
I do think it was a logical progression from Job Simulator to Vacation Simulator. What are some of the things you learned as a brand new VR dev back in the Job Simulator days to where you are now, having already released the Rick and Morty VR experience? Like, what have you learned from your past experience that you were able to bring to Vacation Simulator?
I mean, literally everything. Like, we try to think about VR as starting from the ground up and not like, well, how do we make traditional games work in this new hardware? That's not how we think of it. So when we built Job Simulator, it was, okay, let's interact with physical comedy with your hands and build all these kind of new paradigms. And so we took that, and then with Rick and Morty, we added like a story and a narrative and a little bit of moving around the garage and teleporting and like going through portals and silly, crazy, over-the-top narrative. And then with Vacation Simulator, we're taking that, we're adding the narrative, we're adding a huge open kind of world that you can move around in, which you saw. And I would say that, even though we're using hands and interacting in a physics puzzle sandbox game, this is more of an adventure game. And you saw a little bit of that. Like as a genre, I'd say this is more an adventure. So you get to like have a progression, there's puzzles, and there's different mechanics that lead into a bigger, more open world.
It's funny because there's an element of structure to this game where Job Simulator, well, it had structure and there were win conditions. It felt like the Wild West. It reminds me of like going on vacation with your parents where they had an agenda every day. Yeah. You had to mark everything on the agenda before you could move on, right?
Well, that was like a clear inspiration for us. It's like, okay, the robots always get it wrong, right? So we're in the same universe, the bot universe. It's not a sequel, but it's another game in this kind of future where robots took all of our jobs and now they're making simulators so we remember what it was like. And so their version of like, well, what is vacationing? They just saw that humans were going out to some place to like relax on a beach maybe, but they don't get it. They don't understand, why would a human need to relax? Robots just work straight throughout the day and night. They don't understand this whole human relaxation thing. So it's their interpretation of how this whole thing goes.
So a lot of people, when they go on vacation, they like to get their party on, they like to get crunk. Is there going to be some sort of drinking aspect in this game? Because I know being drunk in VR is not advisable, but being virtually drunk, would that be fun in a virtual vacation?
Virtual drunkenness, I wouldn't say that we haven't experimented with it, but it doesn't really work out too well. Plus, we like to stay, all age friendly, so we do have like a island drink coconut with an umbrella, and I assume that it's filled with water or Gatorade.
Or like coconut water?
Coconut water, yeah.
Okay, so as long as I have a fancy drink with the parasol in it, I'm going to feel like I'm on vacation.
Right, I mean, we can't drop the ball on that, but absolutely there will be tropical drinks to indulge in.
So yeah, talk about, Job Simulator was, it was definitely a comical take on what robots would think jobs were. Yeah. But this game is supposed to be more relaxing, I would say. So what did you guys think? Did you guys go on vacation while you were planning this game, or what was the genesis to be like, yeah, we're going to do vacation next?
I mean, the joke was just too easy to not make, and so that was like our premise from the beginning. It would be great to, have a business expense that, hey, we have to go, research some vacations out in the wild, but
go to Maui with a corporate retreat.
It's a work trip. I mean, it's totally research. But yeah, I mean, like setting the setting in a future of what robots thought vacations were just opens the door to a ton of new mechanics and jokes, and it blows the door wide open when it comes to coming up with new things, because I think we explored Office, the Office Space humor there, and now we've got a brand new place to kind of explore.
It's funny because you have like a little bit of sports here and there. It just feels like sports simulator could be something that you guys would do in the future.
Sports simulator. We get pitched,
sports ball.
We get pitched on the craziest simulators of all time. I don't know. I get the weirdest ones. They're like, "What's next? Retirement simulator, right? Standing in line simulator, right?
Selling your company to Google Simulator?
Yeah, I mean that's a highly realistic simulator. But yeah, it's been a ton of fun to just keep working on this, and you could tell like the team, the humor of us and the team and everybody working on it really exudes like through the game. Mm-hmm. So hopefully you saw that.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of talking about business real quick. Yeah. I was really happy to see Owlchemy get acquired by Google. Was that last year?
Yeah, we're coming up soon on the 1-year anniversary, so it's still first year. Yeah.
So congratulations on that. What are some things that have happened for you guys as a company that Google has enabled? It just seems like you guys were like a ragtag bunch a year ago, and now you have this backing of this massive corporation now. And it also, I think the acquisition legitimized VR development for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was great to show the strength of where VR is going and put a lot of confidence in the future of VR. But to be honest, we think VR is a super long game to play. And if you're worried about your financial future and whether you'll still be alive as a business and whether you can, keep going and building original games, if you're worrying about that day after day, it's a lot easier to have long-term support from a company who really gets it. And so that's what Google kind of brings us, is they understand that we have the strong creative vision in the VR space, and we really understand like what is fun in VR, and we know how to make the kind of content that we're making. And so they've put a lot of trust into us, and so that means that we can kind of continue to make multi-platform original games that fit our style and keep doing that rather than to change a super huge amount post-acquisition. So I think a good sign of a good acquisition is to have the least amount of radical change after that. And so we've been able to have great support from Google, and they really get where VR is going, and so that's awesome for us.
Cool. And I want to ask, because the Job Simulator is very humorous. Yeah. This game's got a lot of comedy in it. You also worked on Rick and Morty. Yeah. When you were working on that game, did you learn anything from those comedy geniuses that you were able to be like, huh? Or is it just something that it was like a marriage of two really similar minds?
I think it was the most perfect marriage of similar minds. Rick and Morty was one of my favorite shows at the time that Justin started tweeting about Job Simulator and who the hell are these devs that are making this amazing game? I want to talk to them. Oh my God. And I don't know if you know the story, but we physically went over to his house where he had a Vive dev kit, and then we showed him an updated version of Job Simulator while it was still in development, and he was geeking out, and we're geeking out over his show, and he's like, I love Job Simulator, and we ended up pitching to Adult Swim days later, we should do something together, and it meshed perfectly. It's just not a story you normally hear. Yeah. Usually there's someone's vying to pay for an IP, and it's a branded experience, and this and that. This was just truly a passion project for people who really wanted to do this, and I hope that it shows in the end that we had a lot of trust from Adult Swim, and that we were able to take the IP and just run with it. And so we wrote jokes thinking like Dan and Justin, and we recorded our crappy version of the VO of Morty and Rick and sent them back to Justin so he could re-record it with the extra stutters and burps and his flavor, and then it was just such a great working relationship that and I think it was just because of that IP and our style and how it just works.
Right on. And I going back to just the business side of things real quick, I really think Owlchemy is a perfect example of how there might not be a huge amount of HMDs relative to iPhone's addressable market.
Sure.
But when you're a dev and you can sell a game, millions of copies or over 1 million copies, how it's life-changing. Can you talk about just the risk and the reward to being a VR dev when you guys jumped in, if maybe offer some encouragement to other VR indies out there that the work is worth it,
So I think it was pretty absurd and nuts for us to jump into VR when we did. So all of our advisors back in 2013, when the Oculus Rift Kickstarter was just coming out, they were like, no, don't do VR. That's not even a platform yet. They're like, what's it going to cost? When's it going to come out? We're like, we don't know. We don't care. We're diving into it 100%. And if we go out of business, that's what happens. Because we just thought so passionately that this was going to be a medium that takes off. And thankfully we were right. And it ended up being really positive. But I don't think it's as crazy of a leap right now to go into VR. I do think that you have to have your expectations aligned with the size of the growth of the industry as it is today. So like I would not fund or want to put a 100-person team on a $15 million budget mega VR game today, because even like hitting number one on all the stores is just not going to make back that revenue right now. But if you scale your development size and time and budgets to the size of the industry, which like we have 23 people, we're making original IPs that are about a year and a half in development, like that's working out really well for us. And I think as long as you kind of grow with the size of the industry, you could be in a good spot.
So one thing that you mentioned, how many years ago you were working on Job Simulator when DK1 was announced, right?
Well, the story was a little more intricate. Like we did the game called Oculus, which was the skydiving, base jumping game. That's what we did initially when we got our first dev kit. And then there was about a year period, and then we got pulled in by Valve they showed us that crazy room demo with the fiducial markers on the wall, and it was like, holy crap, you could do room scale tracking in the future. And we thought, this is it. Like, I need to be able to be tracked and move and have hands. And that's when they said, hey, like, what could you do with that? And we thought, I don't know, but we started prototyping, and that's when Job Simulator emerged.
So I really think you guys cracked the hand presence nut in VR before a lot of other people. I know there's some other devs out there, but It seemed like once you saw hand tracking and the motion controls, you went all in on it. And I think you guys, because it was the Wild West back then, a lot of what Job Simulator has done has become almost essential gameplay mechanics in VR now.
I mean, we've always shared what we've done as like, well, it worked for us, and maybe this could be helpful for another team and this and that. But like, it was really a gut feeling that when we tried tracked hands that were at 90 hertz, that really felt right, that like, when I was able to juggle boxes in VR just by implementing just basic physics, it's like, there's something really magical here beyond basic hand input. It's like, our brain truly accepts our hands as being in the world, and now all these things start unlocking. Like, I could throw something at your face and you'll block your face. It's a deep brain unlock versus a game mechanic. And so we thought, well, people have been using their hands all their life. They've been training all their lives to like manipulate things with their hands. Let's go all in with that, because I think that's where the magic is.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap up. I want to ask you one last question. It's probably insanely long to answer.
What's the meaning of life in the universe?
No, it's 42.
Well, yeah.
What do you think are, like, if you had to prioritize maybe 3 or 5 things, what are the 3 or 5 things that you should prioritize if you're a VR dev trying to make an excellent game or experience?
Frame rate is number 1, 2, and 3.
There you go.
Let's see. I mean, the other one's like a completely divergent and different thing, is that you need to put this content in front of a diverse group of people as soon as humanly possible, and you are your worst tester of your own content. And it's great to like go heads down and work on something crazy for a long period of time, but you have to put that in front of a whole different group of people. And we bring people in every week to try to like stress test our game and try it. And like, we see people of all different shapes, sizes, backgrounds, and philosophies trying the game, and that really opens our eyes to like, here's how people are interpreting it. So that's another big one. And I guess like for us, we have a philosophy of find fun. Don't design it on paper ahead of time. Try to prototype fun. And so we do a lot of things. We build a lot of stuff, and then we say, nope, that actually didn't work, and we throw it out. And we're happy to throw things out. And I think that mindset is something that we encourage all devs to like. Don't just come up with an idea you think is cool and then just build the whole thing. You need to try it as fast as possible and see if it works, and then you can always discard and go in a different direction or like course correct. But you got to try it in VR to understand whether it works or not.
Awesome. And keep pointing the camera and tell everyone to do it for Shacknews. That's our motto.
Do it for Shacknews.
Oh, yeah.